When they use that word diversification, really what they mean is, oh, you buy some tech stocks, you buy some bonds, and you buy some utility stocks, and now you're diversified. In reality, you're not at all. When you look at the market, the traditional investment advisor, whatever that definition is,
Sure.
will tell you to diversify. And when they use that word diversification, really what they mean is, oh, you buy some tech stocks, you buy some bonds, and you buy some utility stocks, and now you're diversified. In reality, you're not at all diversified. Otherwise, people wouldn't be losing 50% of their retirement account every single time you have a recession, right? Which gets us back to that whole drawdown problem, which is why people never really get ahead. So I think, diversification is much better to be done also with different strategies. And
Mm.
that's also, so like if you were to use that strategy, that credit options credit spread one you talk about, and then you maybe do a trend following strategy on top of that. And again, this sounds like a lot of work, and it's not. These are simple things to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then on top of that, which I said before, I don't like to just trade stocks. We also like to have ETFs that replicate other asset classes. Very simple. And that really is where diversification comes in, and it
Love
allows you to
that.
have a much better holistic picture of the market as well.
Like, yeah, I always feel it's always a reality check for me of how not smart I am when I talk to you, and that's what I really appreciate about our conversation. Like, man, like Sarge is just a genius. Uh, what is what's the is there one trade that you look back on like, oh my gosh, like I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I could have that trade back, or is there just a mistake in general inside of the investing game that you're like, man, like if I could look back, I wish I could have changed that. Like, what's that one
Yeah,
mistake for you?
it's as simple as the trend is your friend. I think it's sometimes looked at as an oversimplification, but I cannot overstate how important that is to understand.
Mm.
Um, More money is lost uh, every year in people anticipating a recession or a bear market than actually is being lost in the bear market.
Yeah.
So many people are scared every time the market goes up in a bull market. They say, oh, it's too high. Or when it goes down, they say, oh, it can't go any further. And they start to buy the dip and try to catch the falling knife. But if I look back at the past decade, and whenever people are watching this, but we've now had a amazing bull market for a decade plus. And the amount of times that I have thought this is it, and I could have just kind of stuck to it. And global macro is a complex field, but still the underlying thesis of the trend as your friend is just unbelievably powerful. And that really gets me to the point of how do you do this? Well, what I have found the real success is to to diversify, and here we're back to diversification thing again, to diversify your portfolio into, let's say, at least two different buckets
Mm.
of time frame. What does that mean? Well, you have your, let's say, your longer term bucket. We call that bucket 3. That's your investment bucket. Stuff you like to hold for at least a few months, at the very least, more like a few quarters to a few years. Maybe that's a specific sector that you like. Maybe it's a bunch of energy stock, whatever, bonds, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And those are the big things. That's the dog wagging the tail, that stuff. And then, since we're also doing the more trading oriented stuff, that's another bucket. We call that bucket 2. It's the swing trading bucket, positions of multiple days to multiple weeks. What most people never achieve to do, and it's mostly because they're not being taught that this even is a thing, is to completely separate bucket 3 from bucket 2, the investment bucket from the trading bucket. If you ask the average person, what do you think about Apple stock? And they
Yeah.
will give you an answer. They say, oh, I think it's bullish. But in reality, what they should be doing, they should be asking you back, in what time frame? Is it for the next 5 days, 5 minutes, 5 months, or 5 years? If they're bullish Apple, they're bullish for now until eternity, right?
Yeah.
They do not distinguish. Where in reality, the investment horizon has zero, like literally nothing to do with your near term. Zero. There's zero
Yes.
correlation. Absolutely nothing. And unless you can separate that, it is very difficult for most people to become successful, proactive investors or self-directed investors,
Yeah.
because they will let their emotions of the day-to-day headlines about their swing trading completely affect their investment. And then
Yeah.
we get back to the trend following. That's what gets them out of the trend following stuff.
And so they'll pull money from that other bucket to go and compensate and make up for bucket two, huh?
For example, I mean, they'll do anything. Or they'll be very bullish,
Yeah.
uh, and they say, okay, Apple's going up, and I own it in my investment account, so I'm going to also buy it in the trading account because I think it's also bullish for the next few weeks. Well, if it stops going up and it starts crashing, they will keep it in the investment account and say, you know what? Well, okay, well, it's crashing, but I still like it over here, so I'm going to move this one also into bucket number three, same stock. And now what they're not realizing is that not only could they be wrong, maybe their long-term trend is changing, but also they're doubling down on that long-term bet. So the
Yeah.
concentration risk has now maybe gone up twice. So again, keeping those time frame separators is it's been an absolute game changer for me.